Harold. I am your ACRL President-elect, and after annual conference, I will be President. Let me start by thanking you all for your voluntary service to the association. It is so appreciated. We know that you have important things to do, and we appreciate that you value and place importance in service to the association. So this year we were trying a bit of a flipped classroom where we sent you ahead of time the recording that kind of went through the basics and things to be thinking about, and hopefully giving you helpful tips to help you with your year as chair. But this part of the session is to answer your questions. So if you have questions that are left over from having watched the session that was sent to you ahead of time, or just things that come up that you would like some answers, you have the power of ACRL at your fingertips. You have all the people who can help us get the answers that you need. So please type questions, and we'll spend our time productively. I'm not seeing anything. I see that we have the highlights and reminders that there is Leadership Council and a membership meeting that starts off our annual program this year, and that the welcome reception, the networking leadership reception comes after Leadership Council. We hope that you can arrange your schedule to participate and be there. It's an opportunity where you sit with your liaison, or it's on Friday at the start of conference. So it starts at 1 in the Hyatt, and then ends at 4 with the reception, the last hour. So no, actually the meeting agenda and minutes being published, it's the same deadlines for virtual or face-to-face. It includes one nice thing to do is to let your liaison know when if you're having a virtual meeting, because they can at least look over the agenda, and if there are things where they think they can contribute content, they can either send that to you ahead of time, or if, in the case, what I used to do was participate in part of the virtual meeting, and then I would drop by if there was face-to-face. But not every liaison can do that. Sometimes their schedule and their commitments mean that they just can monitor and support you in other ways. But yes.
Hi, this is Megan Griffin. I hope it's okay if I step in here and just mention something about agendas and minutes just for a second. Stephanie, that's a great question and one we get all the time. And basically, staff go by the same schedule for every conference where there are meetings and then your virtual meetings. So the typical rule of thumb is that your agendas should be posted 2 weeks ahead of the meeting. And by that, I mean posting it publicly to your ACRL Connect space and to your committee and to your section. All sections do it differently, but whatever your rule of thumb is, definitely in Connect though. The rule is 10 days out, but we just suggest 2 weeks just to make sure that's in motion. So 2 weeks for the agenda ahead of the meeting, and then if you can have the minutes or meeting notes done within 1 month of the meeting, that's what we typically shoot for. So yes, that applies to on-site meetings and virtual meetings.
It's always reassuring, thank you, Megan, to have your expertise and knowledge shared. So Jacqueline sent me a private chat message, but I think everybody might have the same question. It's, do vice chairs have special duties at the meetings, i.e. secretary, note taker? Actually, that's up to how the section sets it up. So I know in the sections that I've participated in, they actually had someone who was designated to be the note taker. It usually was a secretary nominee, but I think it's just the culture of your section. So if you haven't been active, but to know what they do, make sure you ask of the chair, and they should be able to tell you what your responsibilities are. I know when I was vice chair for college library section, my responsibilities included program planning, chairing a committee for that, and it also had to do with just making sure that there were any special projects or things that I had to do. But my vice chair year was taken up with appointments. And the same thing is true of my president-elect here. I've spent a lot of time doing appointments to different ACRL division level committees and recommendations for ALA committees. So I hope that answers your question, Jacqueline. But all of you, if you have a question and you want to post it, you don't need to just send it directly to me privately. You can send it publicly to all participants, and then they can see your question too, because I know we all have questions. Oh, and I like what Mary Ellen said about think of your meeting reports as highlights, decisions made, next steps, action items, so we'll do them. Good tip. Wow, it's wonderful to see 21 of you are participating. I'm sure there are other questions. Please don't hesitate to type them into the chat box. I'm here to connect you and facilitate you. Okay, Stephanie's question about a little more about the year-end report, Plan for Excellence, and what should this look like. Luckily, there's a template, and you can see last year's year-end report. You should be able to see and find them from your section. And they're about the work that you're doing, how it connects to that Plan for Excellence, what kinds of support you might need if you're doing projects that require assistance from ACRL staff, then it gives us an opportunity to flag and note that. But it's you know, a standard template. And Megan, if you want to add anything?
Sure, I'd be glad to, and then I don't know if Mary Ellen wants to chime in as well, but the one thing I would say is that an important concept about the Plan for Excellence report is that you really only need to report one concept or one project or one idea one time in the form. So you want to take a look at the template and decide where you think it fits best. That's one of my biggest tips. Mary Ellen, do you have anything to add?
I think that's good advice. I would look at it, though, as an opportunity for you to share with the ACRL board and staff what your group has been working on. ACRL has so many different groups that one of the ways we really can keep up with all the exciting things that are going on is when you share them with us with this report.
I think that's really wonderful advice, Megan and Mary Ellen. Also, I'd say that there's not that many opportunities for the sections to share out beyond their newsletters, but across ACRL. So it's really helpful to have that kind of information in that report. Katie's question, is it similar to work plans and year-end reports of the ACRL division committees? No, it's not quite as detailed, I believe. Is that accurate, Megan?
Oh, sorry, I didn't have my button on. So it's a similar concept in that the committee that is finishing their work is reporting on what they did for the year, but it's also, the committee reports are a little more complicated in that you are supposed to collaborate with the chair of the next year and kind of talk about a continuation plan. And then, of course, it's not fully, the committee form isn't fully based in the Plan for Excellence report. So the COPA Plan for Excellence report is actually more simple, as I already noted, and again, you're only really reporting back in the fields that coincide with the actual objectives of the plan.
I think one of the challenges with the sections is continuity. Sometimes you have elected officers who have never had as much engagement in the section, and so they're coming in and everything's brand new for them. So if you have a historian or an archive of documents, and you can have places on ALA Connect or whatever the next generation thing is, it can help to really get people up to speed and give you a spot to go and look and learn about the culture and the history and the expectations too.
And this is Mary Ellen. I know it varies from section to section. ACRL actually borrowed some of the work plan ideas from the instruction section that always had their committees do work plans. And I think the IS folks said they weren't going to be able to be here today, but they really are very thoughtful about asking their groups what they hope to accomplish and then checking in at the mid-year and year-end about how things are going. And so that is what we are trying to do with the committee work plans, to be much more intentional about what are the objectives we're trying to accomplish that support the plan for excellence, and what do we need to get there, and how are we going to get there. And with the sections, we've recognized that there may be things that aren't quite as directly tied to the plan for excellence that you all need to accomplish in order to have good community of practice opportunities for your members, so that you have a little bit more leeway, as Irene had said, to determine how your own section is going to set priorities for the year. And just at the end of the year, share with us what some of those highlights are, so we're aware of the good work that's going on.
Really, you should be thinking of the report as an opportunity to be lauded for what you're doing that is so wonderful, to help inform others, to get support if you need it, and to help find synergies and connections. So we can see it as a way, it's not a, oh, you know, you've got to do your report because we're checking up on you. It's more, no, we want to be supportive because we are a member institution and the work you do is our work. And so what's going on and how can we make sure that it's all part of the community that we are celebrating.
And we pick some of those accomplishments out of the report that you turn in and highlight them in the report that the ACRL president turns into ALA Council, and you might see some of your accomplishments highlighted in the ACRL annual report that you see in the December issue of CNRL News. Unfortunately, we're big enough that we can't put in every single item, or we, I think, take over the entire year run of CNRL News, which would cause a problem in other ways. But we do look at those so that we can highlight them.
Oh yeah, make my job easier because I can highlight you in my report. Yes. Other questions? So a typical question that I've heard from sections that I'm not seeing, so maybe you don't have this question, is about programs. So ACRL has a limited number of slots at conference, and it's very, very competitive. So we often encourage sections to join together to do a proposal. It doesn't mean you necessarily have a better shot, but with fewer proposals coming in with the number of slots that we have, then that improves your chances for getting one of those slots.
And Irene, just to clarify, that's the ACRL programs that will be at the ALA annual conference. The
yes.
ACRL conference is a whole separate set of things, but because we just had that deadline in the last 2 weeks, I wanted to be explicit about which programs you were describing.
Absolutely. I do not want to confuse anyone. The ACRL 2017 in Baltimore, which I'm so excited about, and I hope you all will be there. It's a totally different process, but both of them have blind peer review for the proposal.
And I was just curious, how many of you, and Elois or Megan, you may need to help me out how to do this if there's a way to raise their hands. How many of you have already had a leadership role in ACRL? You could put your, I think there's a way to click on the hand raising, isn't there? I see a hand on my thing, but I'm not sure if you can do it.
I just turned that feature on.
Oh, thank you, Elois. Elois is so good. She, you know, I can spring things on that like that on her, and she's like, no problem. Let me just do it. So my apologies for springing that on you. So 3, 4, 5, less than half have had a leadership role before. So, well, thank you to those of you that have done this before for continuing to sign up, and welcome to those of you that are new to this. As Irene said, this is our first attempt at a flipped classroom, and we are you'll be getting an evaluation. We're very interested in your feedback and also in sort of knowing if there are other things that you would like covered. We have new board members coming on, and we like to reach out to them and say, what is your burning question? What do you really want to make sure you understand, you know, right off the bat? So if you have some priorities, if you want to type them in the chat box, or you know, somehow let us know if there's something else to cover, we'd be happy to try and do that.
So I think while we're waiting to see what your questions are, just another, oh, wait, here's one from Rebecca. Let's take that first. She's wondering about hybrid in-person online meetings for committees and how they can, or there isn't support from ACRL for that? You mean at conference there isn't support, or you mean in general? Yes, she means at conference. I will let Mary Ellen talk.
Sure. ALA just doesn't have the resources to turn on Wi-Fi in every meeting room, although we've been trying to get more of that. And I just found out today that I think we're going to have Wi-Fi in the meeting rooms in the Hilton. So certainly you can turn that on. So we have done, there are kits that you can get from ALA Conference Services, and check out that they're kind of internet kits. I'm not sure if they're hotspots, and Megan may have more details about this than I do. Okay, so Megan's saying the audio kits are $800 to $1,400 per meeting. So you can see how expensive that is. For the board, what I've done is I've taken my cell phone out, and because I have unlimited minutes, and I've dialed the person in when we've had things. So I just try to be creative and try and use Skype if that's available. Some people have hotspots on their phones, so we've really been sort of making it a community grassroots effort to try and avoid those expensive AV charges. And we've also been realistic to say that sometimes the group is going to work virtually, and the face-to-face is just to finish some things off, or to take the conversation to a certain point, but that we can't get everybody there at the same time. And so we just have to kind of break the work up into chunks. Yeah, I understand, Rebecca. I mean, it is expensive. AV costs are one of the ways the hotels and the AV company make money, which is why ALA is negotiating to try and get as much Wi-Fi in the meeting rooms as possible. Just to give you an example, what I heard was that ALA Conference Services gave up the use of a ballroom and traded that because the hotel wanted it for another event, and then was able to negotiate getting Wi-Fi in the meeting rooms. But for a lot of centers and hotels, it's a revenue stream. So it's if we're not going to give them revenue there, we've got to figure out giving them revenue somewhere else. So it's a cost factor, but and we appreciate people that can use their personal devices when they have unlimited data to or a hotspot to do things. Yeah, and we can use Adobe Connect, Skype, Google Hangouts. If you have a preferred way of doing things and you're in a room that's internet enabled, then welcome to do all those things.
I would like to clarify quickly about the Adobe Connect. Unfortunately, we can't schedule the Adobe Connect rooms during conferences, and that's simply because a lot of conferences are over the weekend and staff aren't available to open that meeting room. But of course, if you have your own connection, your own software, your own license, you're certainly welcome to do that.
Oh, thank you, Megan. Good clarification. I forgot about the weekends. It all blurs together in one long week.
And this is Eloise. I just wanted to give clarity in regards to the Skype kits. As long as those requests are made prior to ALA's AV deadline, we can actually curtail that cost for us.
You mean the audio kits, Eloise?
Yes, the Skype kits, if you want to do a blended meeting.
Oh, thank you, Eloise. So what Eloise means is, and now we're going to get into some of the nitty-gritty, and I'm not even sure I raised this phrase in the orientation I recorded, but, I mentioned that ACRL was part of ALA, and so just like the library is part of the institution where you're working, there are rules of the road with how we share revenues and expenses, and one of the rules of the road is that ALA Conference Services budget will pay for the AV at all our meetings and programs because we're providing content, but only if we get that in by the deadline, which is usually March 1st, I think. So if we know you want a Skype kit before March 1st and put it in the package, it won't come out of ACRL's budget. But if you think of it after March 1st, then then you'd have to see what resources you had in your section to try and cover that cost, which is why we often go to the who has unlimited data, and is there some other way to do this, or can we meet virtually ahead of time to get that person's input?
So I think Kai is asking for a repeat about Adobe Connect. So ACRL can provide Adobe Connect for your virtual meetings in between conferences, but the problem during conference is that a staff member has to be available to open the connection, and we meet over weekends.
Yes, and even during the day, some of the staff are there that might be helping. But yes, that is the main problem.
And then Lana's question about, or maybe it's Kai's second question about, is Connect free for a virtual meeting? ACRL provides that as a benefit for you. So yes, it's there for you to use. And I'm not clear what Lana's question means. Not the recording, but the PowerPoint. So you mean the flipped classroom material that was sent out before this meeting, or are you speaking about something else?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question about, Lana's question about the PowerPoint. If you're talking about the PowerPoint for this flipped classroom, we're going to post that on the web so people can watch it at other times. But I feel like I'm misunderstanding the question. Oh, maybe not. Okay. All right, and then another question was, can we only use Adobe Connect during the week? To use the ACRL licensed version, we only have staff available Monday through Friday, and so our license prohibits us from just sharing the password with any members. And so yes, an ACRL staff person has to open the room for you, which is why it's not available on weekend.
And in response to Rebecca's question about groups on Skype, I believe you can.
That I don't know. I think I've done multiple people on Skype, just personally, but not with video. But it depends on the strength of your connection, I think, if you can bring video in too. If anybody else in the group has knowledge, feel free to share.
I was typing in that, yes, you can use the Skype kit for multiple people, but all of the participants actually have to have a Skype connection, and Skype is free up to a certain point. So if you want other individuals to participate in your Skype meeting, all those individuals have to have access to Skype. But yes, multiple people can be in your Skype meeting.
And Skype is a free app download, so as long as your members could download it in advance. And I've had members, I guess, what do you call it, ambidextrous, so I have the PC connection, but I also have an iPad, so I've also FaceTimed in people that couldn't get to the meeting because they had an Apple product and we had the iPads, we were able to make it work that way. So it's you know, what tools do you have at your disposal in your group and who can work with what, and you're welcome to use it.
And I see that Mary Jane responded to Rebecca's question about conference call service, and yes, we use freeconferencecall.com.
And anybody can create their own account. You don't even, you know, you don't have to use an ACRL free conference call. You can sign up for one so that you can use it just for your group if you want to. There's the way freeconferencecall.com works, if you're not familiar with it, just because it could be a little bit confusing. It means that there's no charge for the connection of multiple lines, but that each person calling in pays their own long-distance phone bill. So you get a central number to call in, and each person just is responsible for its own charge. You know, Alexander, I don't know that I've ever tried to share a desktop on Skype. I'll defer if other people know. I've not tried to do that. I've done it in Adobe Connect. Oh, Rebecca says you can. Excellent. See, we are a community of practice. We're helping each other. Thank you. you know, and that's something I don't see a question about it, but the way you all are helping each other now, I want to reinforce that you have all been added or will be to a listserv, a community of practice listserv. And often I primarily see staff pushing out messages to member leaders, which is one of the purposes of it. So we can remind you of dates and deadlines and how to, and, you know, getting your meeting schedules and stuff. But I encourage you to think of it as a rich resource of other leaders and other communities of practice within ACRL that might be having the same kind of questions that you do, or may already have solved the challenge that you're coming up with. So please feel free to use the list to post questions to each other, because I think you'll find a rich well of resources among you. Different sections do things different ways, just like at ALA, different divisions do things different ways. So for an example, I'm on a list with the other 10 division executive directors, and we were all just exchanging how the different divisions recognize outgoing board members. So it was interesting to see where the similarities were and where there was a new idea.
So David's saying he's concerned with deadlines and requirements. That's absolutely true. We all feel a little bit slammed right after conference. So just remember that deadline for getting in the minutes and work plans.
Well, sections don't have to turn in work plans. That's just division committees.
Sorry.
So Megan, no, that's okay. I mean, I had to think for a minute. I'm going to call on Megan to see if there's any July deadlines you want to particularly highlight for the new section leaders.
Sure, I'd be happy to do so. David, thanks for that good comment. So as vice chair of a section, your first thing that you're going to need to think about is, as we get to late August, you'll start getting emails about scheduling your meetings for midwinter and then for annual. So you'll be in charge of corralling the LPSS meetings, and those deadlines will be in September and most likely October as well. So Lois will send out plenty of friendly reminders about those, and hopefully everything's fairly straightforward. But as far as right now, the current LPSS chair, that person, Roz, will have some other things to do right after annual conference. So in addition to helping corral in the meeting notes and highlights, there's also, of course, the Plan for Excellence report that'll be due on July 22nd. And then the end of the ALA fiscal year happens August 31 each year. So all reimbursement requests for anything that needs to be paid out of your section budgets are due to me by August 15th. So those are two very important deadlines. But again, we try and provide ample time to give you notice about different things coming up, and as your staff liaison, you're always welcome to reach out to me if you're feeling a little frustrated or overwhelmed, and we can work through things as best as possible.
And I was just going to mention Megan's excellent at helping with reminders for deadlines and providing support and helping you to be very successful.
Thanks, Irene. I want to reinforce that. I mean, we recognize, we on staff recognize that you all are volunteers, as is Irene, and that you have full-time jobs and lives, and we appreciate your stepping up to take this leadership role in the organization. And we recognize that you may be fitting it in between all of your other responsibilities and your personal life. So, you know, we're understanding if we have to resend a message, or if you're not quite sure that you understand it, if you want to check in, that's why we are here. And you may want to think about how you can manage email around your ACRL's responsibilities. Some people write a rule and set up a folder so that everything that comes in from ALA Connect goes into that one folder, or, you know, so that you can quickly find things if you are not as confident of a search tool in your email. So I think, you know, starting to think now about how you want to organize this, and there's a calendar of dates that, you know, you can refer to, and we put the dates on the ACRL calendar and ALA Connect, so Yeah, I'm a big believer in appointment reminders and task reminders for myself, so that things pop up on my phone, so that I, have a 2-week reminder before a report is due or something like that. So I think thinking through what tools work best for you in your work life and seeing how you can apply them to your volunteer work would be helpful. And this, again, is where a community of people may know different things. Like I've been meaning to ask the staff, I've just been hearing about Slack, and I've never used Slack, and people are saying, oh, it's a great thing to work in the workplace. Would that work for us? Would it be a good thing? That may be something that could be useful or not.
That's good to know, Rebecca, that you've used it and then found it helpful. One thing that is kind of unique this year with me coming in as president is Hawaii is 6 hours earlier than the East Coast. So if you've got a burning question and you copy me on it, if everybody else has already gone home and is asleep, I might be awake and be answering it for you.
Are there other questions? I mean, one of the challenges with our flipped classroom is that we schedule an hour for questions, but that doesn't mean we have to stay here an hour. If those of you that are here are like, well, I can't think of anything else to ask, but we are happy to stay here for the full hour if there are other tips that some of you that have already been leaders want to share with the group, or if there's some other questions.
So one thing I was going to ask was if there were any questions that we need to clarify about the purpose of Leadership Council, because I know that there were sometimes there have been folks who have been invited to go, but they didn't quite understand why they were there. But maybe you all get it.
Maybe we could try the hand thing again. How many are able to come to the Leadership Council in Orlando? If you could raise your hand, we can see. And you're not, as newly elected vice chairs, you're not required, but if you're available, we'd love to have you. Oh, great. Great.
That's fabulous.
We'll look forward to, if we haven't met in person, we'll look forward to meeting you there. And please, I hope that you'll come up and introduce yourselves to us if we haven't gotten around the room yet to see you. And for those of you that can't attend, we hope you can come to the next one at midwinter or look for some other ones to come. It's an opportunity, and that's why we pair the reception with it, to kind of meet some of the people in the other communities of practice, the committees, the board, and some of the staff members that you will work with. And I guess my tip for Orlando, for those of you that may not have been there before, is layers, because it's going to be hot outside and freezing inside.
I won't even tell you all how gorgeous and sunny and 80 degrees it is here today.
Yes, you're right. I am describing Florida in the summer, and the other part, which you can probably testify to, is the regularity of the brief rainstorms all summer long, several times during the day, right?
Yeah, I've seen people talking about that. You can set your clock by the rain, huh?
It will rain at 3. I love that. Okay, we're testing that out. Oh, okay. Ish, I get it. A little wiggle room there is fair, Katie. There's maybe some of the big sections we've covered, programs. Anybody have any questions about appointments, or have you gotten the information from your chair and past chair so you feel comfortable making all your appointments? Oh, excellent, David. You're ahead of the game. Rebecca, I like to say that appointing people is almost like a year-round sport. That's what I say about budgeting too. The vice president said to me, "You think you're all done, and then the board creates a new task force, or then somebody turns it down, or somebody drops off." And yes, well, that's good. That's great. Yes, it seems like it can continue for a while because people have different abilities to accept, or then they get a new assignment at work and think, oh boy, I better not do both. So I always look at it, it's better that someone is direct up front that they're not going to be able to do it, and give the opportunity to somebody else and try to do more than they really have time for.
And Katie's question about can we continue making appointments? Yes.
Absolutely.
In fact, sometimes a committee will meet and say, you know, we really needed another 3 people because we have such a huge anticipated workload. And so you might need to go in and appoint a few more. Of course, you know, you don't always have to do official appointments. You can tell people that they can have ex officio or folks that are volunteering to work on projects for your committees that are not officially appointed. Now, obviously for some that's not a desire because they want to be able to put it on their CV officially as an appointed member. But for others, they just want to be able to provide service and want to know how they can participate with the idea that that starts their involvement and gets them engaged in your section and in your work. So it can be a good recruiting tool also. Oh, and Mary Jane is reminding us that the ACRL booth is looking for volunteers. I'll be there during the opening exhibit for the first hour and promoting my book, but it is a wonderful experience to volunteer at the ACRL booth. People walk by, everybody's happy to see you. You call out and they get an opportunity to put their card in for the 2017 ACRL conference registration, and it's just fun, fun, fun.
It is a lot of fun to chat with all the people that go by. And I wanted to also remind people something Irene was saying about appointments made me think about, we currently have a call for volunteers for some new task forces. So since some of you are new to leadership roles, I wanted to make sure you all had signed up for ACRL Insider, which is our blog where we post kind of the inner workings of ACRL, where we might post some of the deadlines or the calls for presenters. And in this case, we've just posted calls to volunteer to work on a Standards for Libraries and Higher Ed revision task force, to volunteer for our new committee for our new 4th goal. That is the new roles and changing landscapes. That one, if not posted yet, Allison is going to be posting soon. And we had another task force on, I think we've got about half a dozen statements on faculty status that we need a task force to look at all those statements to see whether they are current, whether they should be renewed, whether they need to be revised. So where, Megan, maybe you can post where they sign up for ACRL Insider, because I'm not sure what the exact URL is to subscribe. And we should have subscribed you all to ACRL Leads. Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that, Kaya. And I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, but thank you. There's also a blog that's ACRL blog, which is run by members that posts about issues of interest to academic librarians and higher ed, where the ACRL one is more about professional development events, publishing, deadlines, sort of the inside look of the ACRL behind the scenes. Oh, and thank you. Megan has confirmed that all the section vice chairs that were newly elected were added to our leads and to the COPA listservs, which we still use the old acronym of the SC-L when it was just sections.
I also want to go back to Mary Jane Petrowski, who mentioned the ACRL membership committee will be posting a call for buddy volunteers. So that's a great way to introduce those new to conference to your and new to membership to your section and its activities. Another thing is on ALA Connect, they had a mentor sign up. I'm still working with someone who signed up for mentorship 2 years ago, and they're in their first professional job and are now an academic librarian, although they had dabbled in public librarianship too. So it's a great way to encourage the connections and retain our members and have them see the value of your section because you can introduce them to it.
It looks like Katie's got a call for buddy programs that's going to go out, so I know some of the sections use this too. In fact, one of the board members sent me the one from a call from one of the sections for mentors saying, what a good idea this is, and does everybody get to do this? So it is a nice way, I think, anything we can do to make members and potential members feel more personally welcome to the organization and feel more engaged is a great thing to do.
And not that I want to scare anyone, but you might recall, you might not know, that there is a minimum level of membership in sections that needs to be maintained to maintain your section status. So that's another great reason for going out and helping to recruit and retain members to your section and its activities.
And the reason for that was just to ensure that there was enough bandwidth within your section to take care of it. The minimum is 400 people, so that there are enough volunteers to call upon. And we have found that when a section drops below 400, they just can't get the volunteers to serve on things like the nominating committee and the appointments committee, let alone any other committees they want. So the board wanted the communities of practice groups to be able to focus on the content areas, which is why they came in the first place, and less on the governance stuff. So we have found that if it's below 400, that group might be better served as an interest group or a discussion group so they can focus on content. And they can still plan programs if they want to, but they don't have to worry about elections and appointments in the same way. But if you're bigger than that and the section is working for you, then that's why a lot of that structure grew up, to give people opportunities to participate in a fair way.
And you may or may not be aware that you have guidelines, not bylaws. And that way, if you had bylaws, they would have to be approved by the board. Guidelines, you can change them when you need to. And I noticed Mary Jane's reminding people that your section membership chair will be contacted about representatives for the ACRL 101 program. It doesn't have to be the membership chair who is there. It can be anyone from your section who's representing you, but it gets tons of participation from those that are new to conference, new members, and so it's really terrific to have your section there to speak to people, to let them know, because when people join ACRL, they may not know which sections they want to join yet, and so this gives them an opportunity to kind of test drive and find out where they fit.
And another thing that ACRL does to try and encourage participation, and you'll hear a little bit more about this at Leadership Council, and I'm mentioning this now because you might want to consider it within your section, is that we budget a fair amount of money. I think we've budgeted, $60,000 maybe for scholarships to the ACRL conference in Baltimore 2017, and we also have a challenge out to our own members to provide individual donations to support additional scholarships. So we have a goal of raising over $100,000 so that we can help those newer to the profession, as well as a few other categories we have in terms of those who are mid-career and those from professionally underrepresented minorities. But in other words, we want to get as many people engaged in the association. And some of the sections had fun with this last time and had fundraising within the section and had individual donations and had named scholarship winners, so that there could have been an ANT scholarship winner or an IS scholarship winner, and then sort of decided on their own whether they wanted to meet with that person at conference and things like that. So Lori Getch is our ACRL Scholarship Chair, and she will be talking to us briefly at Leadership Council about this, but just wanted to get that on your radar too, because it's I think it's a wonderful program, and thanks to individual donations, raised over $50,000 in individual donations for the 2015 conference, and we're able to give out 179 scholarships. You may also hear another preview from your section chair or not, but a small working group of the board just sent out a very quick survey asking for their opinions on what skills the academic librarian of the future will need, and this will go into a report that we'll also be talking about more at Leadership Council, I believe, that is going to go to an ALA task force on the future of accreditation, so that we can kind of say, here are the things you ought to be thinking about as the accreditation office looks at accrediting programs for library and information science. What are the curricular topics that really need to be addressed? So you may or may not hear from some of your section chairs about this, because it was a real quick turnaround and they may just decide to do it on their own. But if you do hear about it, you got a little preview of it today, and you'll get a chance to talk about it more in Orlando.
Other hot topics. What are your concerns, things we haven't addressed? You've got huge, huge brain trust here to answer.
You know, one of the points I want to make is that while people are thinking of their questions, you have taken on a responsibility, but I'd like to always tell the newly elected board members this is this is volunteer service. It should be fun too. Hopefully you will find a great group of people to work with, to engage with, to think of new things that will help your section and your community of practice. And you know, so please look at this as how you can enjoy this role, as well as just, oh my God, there's so many deadlines. So don't let all the deadlines overwhelm you. Remember that you know, you're getting together for the reason that you're passionate about what you do, and I hope that you'll be able to keep that passion and that joy foremost as you consider your term of office.
And while you're thinking about what your further questions might be, let me just mention that Ann Campion-Riley's President's Program in Orlando will be on data. It sounds to be very interesting. And then my program committee has proposed a few things, a panel forum for midwinter, which will be focusing in the new fourth goal area, the changing new roles and changing landscapes, looking at what leaders need to develop to meet those needs. We've also proposed something for Baltimore 2017 ACRL conference, which may or may not be accepted, but if it is accepted, it will be a panel on leadership challenges and resonant leadership, which I think would be fascinating. And then for ALA 2017 in Chicago, we're proposing a joint program, President's Program with TLA, and that too will be on an aspect of leadership development. So if you can hear, I have a theme. I'm not supposed to, but I do.
But the theme connects nicely, which is what the presidents are supposed to do with the strategic plan, the plan for excellence. So with our new goal area, our new roles and changing landscape, I think leadership is quite supportive of that, Irene.
Thank you. That was of course, my vision. Anyway, I hope that gives you a little taste and gets you excited for what's coming up.
And I am not seeing any more questions. I am happy to stay until 3 o'clock, but I know that you all are busy too. So unless we see another question pop up, we may want to say we are adjourned.
Or in Hawaii, we say we're POW.
You're what?
POW. That means you're done. POW, it's over.
P-O-W?
P-A-U, POW.
Oh, P-A-U, POW. All right, there we go. Thanks so much for coming, and we look forward to seeing you in Orlando. And please don't hesitate to email us if you have further questions. we will be sending you an evaluation link.